If I called and said, hey, can I come over tomorrow? What would you say? I can tell you my initial thoughts at this moment. Oof, I have somewhere to be at 9:30, and when Rick gets home I need to go to Costco. I guess my afternoon is open, but the kids need to nap, and my house is a disaster, which is not an exaggeration. And I have no baking, and don't even have snacks, hence the trip to Costco. It's just not a convenient day for me. I mean, I guess the afternoon. And then I could stay up late tonight trying to tidy and clean and get a batch of cookies in the oven. And then tomorrow, if you can come in the afternoon, I might be distracted or panic cleaning or worrying about nap time. It's just not great. It's not ideal. But really, if I were to be completely honest, it's not an inflexible day. The morning is difficult. It's a church event and I'm gone till noon, but I have literally nothing else the rest of the day. There are lots of other times I can go to Costco. Nap times are not inflexible. My house should be cleaner, but it's functional. Please come over anytime after 12. I'll be home and the door will be, well, it will be locked, but if you knock, I will open it for you. Why is hosting and hospitality so difficult? Why do we make it so complicated? Welcome to Canadian Rubies. We're a podcast for Christian women, and we're so glad you're here. Please subscribe wherever you find your podcast so you don't miss anything, and it helps the channel to grow. If you listened to the last episode, you got to hear a breakdown of the history of abortion and abortion laws in Canada. Phew, it was a lot of info. Today is going to be very different, just to really mess with the algorithm and whatever other mysteries behind the screen move this podcast forward. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm learning things and it's fun. New episodes will come out every other Wednesday. So today we're talking about hospitality and the question, why is hospitality so difficult? Maybe it isn't for you. That is fantastic. Maybe you have a lot of reasons you feel you can't, or excuses, or reasons. Hopefully either way you're being honest with yourself. I feel very passionately about this subject, but at the same time, I would not say I'm good at it. I mean, my intentions are really good, so there's that. But I have to tell you, these topics are almost harder than the heavily researched topics like last week's because people know me. Maybe you're listening to this and thinking, really? Janita is going to lecture me on hospitality? I've never even seen her house or talked to her in weeks. So I am sorry if you feel that way. Hopefully this inspires me to be better too. And hopefully it isn't a lecture, but more of an encouragement for you. At the beginning of the month, I encouraged you to dress like you have value. And then my family had the flu for 2 weeks, and I spent an unreasonable amount of time in sweatpants because I sat on the couch all day, and also I was behind on laundry. I'm really researching and writing these episodes for myself, and hopefully God will choose to use them to help other people too. The other danger in these kinds of topics is that you hear them and apply them to other people. They have a beautiful house, or they live next to a park, or they have lots of room in their budget for hosting. Why don't they have me over? We talk every Sunday, but then I don't hear from them all week. Or maybe you think, I'm an excellent host. Hospitality is easy peasy. Why doesn't anyone else return the favor? Why aren't my invites reciprocated? Please try not to do that today. We all have our own excuses or reasons. Let's focus on ourselves, on how we can better serve our brothers and sisters in Christ, and love our neighbor. Let that be our goal. Hospitality doesn't need to be complicated. It can be. A fun themed dinner party is super cool. So if you like that sort of thing, then do it. But it doesn't need to be. Honestly, let me let you in on a little secret. You don't even need to serve food. Or you can break open one bag of no-name chips and call her a day. Keep it simple. It doesn't have to be scary. Are you nervous about having other people in your house and keeping a conversation going? Start small. Start close to home. Invite a close friend or two, or a mentor, or your elder and his wife. Serve coffee and chocolate chip cookies and play a game. Or just sit outside and enjoy a quiet night with a fire and some blankets. Unless you live somewhere where it's ridiculously cold. Then a good rule of thumb is don't send your guests home with frostbite. This is the wisdom you receive on Canadian Rubies. But don't pretend having people over who you know doesn't count as hospitality. Galatians 6 verse 10 says, "So then, as we have opportunity, let us do good to everyone, and especially to those who are of the household of faith." Especially to people we know, especially to other church members, especially to other believers. See, your hospitality can build and grow. But if you can get comfortable having people over that you know, then you can expand it to people you don't know quite as well, but are still in the church. Hopefully that's not too scary or intimidating. If it is, then invite your friends and another couple or individual or family from the church and build on it that way. Hospitality is an important part of being a member of the church. Romans 12 shares what is referred to as the marks of a true Christian, which includes loving one another with brotherly affection and contributing to the needs of the saints and seeking to show hospitality. Those last two go hand in hand. Showing hospitality is contributing to the saints. The communion of the saints. Communion requires fellowship. That can look different for different people, but the Bible calls for that fellowship so many times. How can we pray for each other and encourage each other if we only see each other at church and then go our separate ways to our own busy lives for the rest of the week? How can we bear one another's burdens if we don't know what the burdens are? How can we rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep if all of our rejoicing and weeping happens in the privacy of our own homes? How can we stir up one another to love and good works when we simply love from a distance with a card in a mailbox or a hello in a grocery aisle? How can we lift up our fellow brother if we do not know that he has fallen? We cannot be a communion of saints without communion. Then we are not a church of brothers and sisters. We are merely a gathering of strangers. Article 28 of the Belgic Confession is titled Everyone's Duty to Join the Church. It states that all and everyone are obliged to join the church and unite with it. They must submit themselves to its instruction and discipline, bend their necks under the yoke of Jesus Christ, and serve the edification of the brothers and sisters according to the talents which God has given them as members of the same body. We are not all called to be preachers and teachers and to edify in that way, but we are all called to serve the edification of the brothers and sisters. Edify means to instruct or benefit, especially morally or spiritually, uplift. Just as we submit to the instruction, so we serve the brothers and sisters. It's part of our duty in being part of the church. Lord's Day 21, question and answer 55 of the Heidelberg Catechism explains that everyone in the communion of saints is duty-bound to use his gifts readily and cheerfully for the benefit and well-being of the other members. Is hospitality the only way to serve and use our gifts? Certainly not. But it really opens the door to the use of different gifts in so many ways. Whether you seek to encourage each other or share their burdens, to build new relationships, or bolster a weary spirit, this all comes in person. It doesn't need to be in your home. Hospitality doesn't mean your house is packed every week. It could be a meetup in the park, a coffee in the evening, a phone call on your quiet drive home from work. Service, love, hospitality, they all go together. I said earlier that hospitality doesn't have to be complicated, but it is hard, even when it's simple. because it is a sacrifice. We are sacrificing ourselves, our time, our resources in some way to serve God and to love our neighbor. Hebrews 13 verse 16 says, "Do not neglect to do good and to share what you have, for such sacrifices are pleasing to God." Sharing is hard. Just ask my toddler. Because sharing is sacrifice. We teach our kids to share their toys, so small, so insignificant, so that one day they will share their time and their money in their homes and their love, so that they learn sacrifice, so that they do not neglect to do good and to share such sacrifices. The same sacrifices or fasting that God calls for in Isaiah 58. Is not this the fast that I choose, to loose the bonds of wickedness, to undo the straps of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, and to break every yoke? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry, and bring the homeless poor into your house? When you see the naked, to cover him, and not to hide yourself from your own flesh. The fast or sacrifice that God requires is love and hospitality. Isaiah does not seem to be speaking only about the fellow church members, although in Israel most people were fellow members of the covenant. But there are more texts that refer to strangers or foreigners. Leviticus 19 includes instructions for loving your neighbor, which includes the stranger. You shall treat the stranger who sojourns with you as the native among you, and you shall love him as yourself. For you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. Proverbs 31 also describes the woman as one who opens her hand to the poor and reaches out her hand to the needy. Again, this should include those in the church, but does not exclude those outside of it. There is a call to reach outside of the church, and not just to neighbors that we get along with. Proverbs 25 encourages us, if your enemy is hungry, give him bread to eat, and if he is thirsty, give him water to drink. For you will heap burning coals on his head, and the Lord will reward you. The goal, of course, is not the reward promised, but there are multiple places that promise a reward for hospitality. Hospitality to our fellow brothers and sisters also brings a reward, as Jesus instructs his disciples. For truly I say to you, whoever gives you a cup of water to drink because you belong to Christ will by no means lose his reward. Returning to Hebrews 13, the author reminds his readers, let brotherly love continue. Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares. Certainly we do not entertain in hopes of having some reward or in dreams of them being an angel. Certainly some people have entertained thieves unawares. But it is a reminder that we never truly know who needs our hospitality, or how God is using us or using that person in so many different ways. This is why, whether it's within or outside of the church, we must treat all guests equally. Having acknowledged that being hospitable and sharing with our fellow church members is hard and is sacrifice, how much more so to others who are outside of the church or our normal community, and then to treat them equally? That is greater sacrifice. Now, you don't even know your sacrifice. Are you sacrificing your safety? Are you putting your own possessions at risk? Not to be dramatic, but if you are welcoming someone off the streets into your home, this is real fear and real sacrifice. But it's still not an excuse. We do need to be wise and discerning, of course. If you have reason to fear for your life, then it's not the appropriate form of hospitality for that person. It won't look the same for everyone. Treating all guests equally doesn't mean that if I leave my kids upstairs with a friend while I grab something out of storage, that I will do the same with a stranger. Stopping to talk to your neighbor at 10 o'clock at night on the street corner doesn't mean you should do the same for anyone you meet on a street corner at that hour. You understand what I'm saying. It's obvious to be careful, but don't make an excuse. And no matter the hospitality you show to a stranger, it will still be harder. You're not from the same world, the same community. You can't ask the same questions and carry the same conversation as you would with someone in the church who you know has a job, a family, and a purpose. The sacrifice of hospitality is even more clear in those circumstances. I'm not saying you should go into town and pick up a couple strangers off the street corner for dinner. But if they ended up at your door, or in your church, or at your child's soccer game, would you hesitate and find your reasons to duck away? Or are you prepared to make your sacrifice of praise, knowing that in so doing, some have entertained angels unawares? We all have excuses at the ready. My house is too small. My kitchen is too messy. I'm not a good cook. I'm just too busy already. I don't have a spouse to host with. I have too many children to juggle. I'm too young. I'm too old. Now is the time for someone else to step up. I've done my part in other ways. My couch just isn't comfortable. It's too cold outside. I'm an introvert. I'm too awkward. So many options. So easy to pull to mind. It's always easier or more convenient for someone else to do the thing. In chapter 5 of his first letter, Timothy gives instruction to the church, including providing for a widow, and he explains who should fall under the responsibility of the church. Verse 10 gives some requirements for what the woman is like. Being over the age of 60, she also should be having a reputation for good works. If she has brought up children, has shown hospitality, has washed the feet of the saints, has cared for the afflicted, and has devoted herself to every good work. 3 of the things on the list are related to hospitality itself, washing the feet of the saints, and caring for the afflicted. Not all in her home, but serving the church and being a living and active member of it. Even the widow is without excuse. So many of these verses start with love and then build into hospitality. Above all, keep loving one another earnestly, since love covers a multitude of sins. Show hospitality to one another without grumbling. Love is the foundation, the motivation, and the goal. So, love your neighbor and be hospitable, especially to those who are of the household of faith. As usual, we end with prayer requests and suggestions. For yourself, pray that God would strengthen and equip you for the calling of hospitality, whatever that may look like in your life. That He would help you to use your gifts without excuse, readily and cheerfully, for the benefit and well-being of your brothers and sisters in Christ. For our church communities, pray that we would build and share a culture of hospitality, where we are willing to share our own rejoicings and sufferings, and also lift up those who have fallen and rejoice with others. For Canadian Rubies, please pray that this podcast may be a place of love and hospitality, in the biblical sense, of course, that it may be a place of encouragement and edification. I'll end with Paul's prayer in Ephesians 3. For this reason, I bow my knees before the Father, from whom every family in heaven and on earth is named, that according to the riches of His glory, He may grant you to be strengthened with power through His Spirit in your inner being, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith, that you, being rooted and grounded in love, may have strength to comprehend with all the saints what is the breadth and length and height and depth, and to know the love of Christ that surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled with all the fullness of God.